There we go. There we're on. We're on. Hooray! Hello, everybody. How's it going? Any funny one-liners to start us off with? Has anyone got one off the top of their head? No.
No, I got nothing. Nothing ready to go. No good zingers to fire off immediately.
People normally have one prepped.
Yeah, I could have, if I was going to, I'd just show people that image set of documents that's floating around, because that is funny.
We will get there. Well, welcome to Grimdark Therapy, folks. Welcome to Grimdark Therapy. It is another session with myself, without a circle over there in Australia, and of course with Kaifa from What the 40k over there in the US. We are coming together. We're not, but we're converging to talk about your latest bit of hobby goodness. And today's subject, which we will get into a bit later on, is 40k is going mainstream. Is that a good or a bad thing? Or does it need to be mainstream? We'll get into that a little bit later on. But first of all, I wanted to ask you all how you're doing. Who wants to go first? What's been going on in your hobby lives? Regale us. Wax lyrical.
Hobby lives is pretty busy, which is why the channel uploads have been pretty thin. I'm hosting a small event for a local convention, which is kind of wholesome, honestly. It's like a little event similar to the old Games Day events, right? So it's a little more wholesome, a little bit more narrative, and I don't know. It's just been busy prepping with that. So yeah, hobby life's been good, but busy.
Excellent, man. We have had a few bits of news about Horus Heresy, at least a little bit of leaks. Shall we poke Maka? Should we poke him to see what he says?
Yeah.
Poke. Go.
I'll say the honest truth, which I said before we even started recording, which is I have every reason in the world to just talk about what a terrible job of reading the community has been done by the people over at the company, who just seem to have decided that they would just rather do their own thing rather than going, what does the community actually want? And then just going, yeah, we're really happy with the thing we're making for us. Like, your responsibility was not to make something for you. Your responsibility was to make something that carried on the legacy established. I could spend hours making video after video after video, just absolutely blasting them. But I would rather put my efforts into something I can actually affect. I can't affect Nottingham, but what I can affect is writing my own rules to say, look, at the least, even if no one plays them, I put my money where my mouth was and I gave it a go at trying to write something I think is more in touch with the community. And to that effect, I've already written up weapons charts for multiple of the factions for the game. I've already written an entire core rulebook for the game. And things are tracking along pretty well so far, and all the special rules. And, it's just the little things that I think will make my edition stand out a little bit compared to their versions of the game. Like, for example, special rules. I tried something different. I put them all in alphabetical order. And I made them their own document. Yeah, so you don't have to just, pick up a book and then just find some obscure page somewhere in the middle. Instead, I'm like, no, here is all the special rules. If you need one, open up this document and you'll find it there. Unless it's some niche special rule that only applies to one unit in your army because it's like a custom unit, it's going to be in there. All the special rules. There's no searching backwards and forwards. There's no, Fs in the S section, which has happened in the past, weirdly. Heresy 2.0 had the Pathfinder rule up in the S's section. Got rid of all of that. Same with weapons. I put all of the weapons into their own documents. So rather than having one massive, 500-page rulebook, you got to flick through. Yeah. It's based on the 1.0 Heresy rules. And believe it or not, even just condensing the rules down, I haven't even properly gone through and formatted them yet.
Well, here's the thing. Are you going to release it for public consution, or is it going to be just a personal thing?
Yes, for free.
Awesome.
For free, for public consumption. No Patreon, no paywalls of any kind. Ooh. It's entirely just me throwing it out there, practicing what I preach.
What do you think about the actual models in the Saturnine set, by the way? I haven't asked you yet. What do you think of the actual set itself?
I have a video queued up for that.
Okay.
But I think they're pretty underwhelming. The Mark II is okay. I've got my issues with it. The Sat 9 armor is just terrible because it's just it's proportioned. Like it's a suit being worn by a normal human, not a suit that is so much bigger than the person who would be inside that none of their limbs line up with any of the joints.
And it's kind of like Primark, like Primark art levels of nonsense. When you obviously Horus, you're like, yeah, well, where are his arms? Like they're like halfway up his actual armor, you know, that kind of thing. There's always been that discombobulation in 40k though, and 30k. It's always been like that. It's always been, where are your arms, dude? You're not that big.
Is it a like Centurion?
Yeah.
Devastator sort of situation where the arms would have to be crossed?
I'll put it in the chat.
Or...
I'll put it in the chat. One sec.
Yeah.
So that works with Centurions because they're like kind of these big, thick, limbed, clunky, bulky things. They're not. The Sat 9 like limbs, especially when you see them front on, are very thin. Like they're like Terminator armor in like thickness. But the thing is, like, no, like the hip joint is so, like the legs have this massive thigh gap. The legs are so wide, so far apart. You physically couldn't do it. And like, yeah, we suspend some disbelief with the designs in 40k. This is way beyond the pale.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I see what you mean. They're giant. They have gigantism for sure. Those people.
That's the word. I was trying to think of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the word.
Giant,
too much
chungus people.
Too much of that Mr. Burns nerve tonic stuff.
Well, it's just me, but no starter set with lots of Space Marines should come with a turret. It's just lame. Like I just, yeah, that bit's not for me. I'd rather have another tank. I'd rather have another dreadnought. I'd rather have something that's going to be of use in the game. I know turrets are in. I know they can be used, but it's lame, dude. I want to move things around. We're not playing Tau here. You know, we're playing Horus Heresy. Let's go. Let's get stuck in, you know.
Thing is, after I've done all the factions for my edition of the game, I'm going to do the Xenos, so a Great Crusade stuff, so people can play Eldar and Orcs and Necrons.
Oh, do
That's my long-term plans for the game, and then we'll look at doing the more niche, like Interrex and things like that. The niche stuff. Yeah, it's all on the do. So I'm like, fuck it, I'm gonna make an edition that's by gamers who've been playing the game for fucking decades and actually play it, unlike these fucking fuck knuckles over at Games Workshop. You can't even work out how many people. Yeah,
dude, they obviously play it. Okay,
they can't even tell you how many people would actually get killed by a multi-melter. They're like, oh, you shoot 10 multi-melters, you probably kill like, I don't know, 6 Marines. No, you won't. You're the fucking developers. You can't tell me the fucking odds on one weapon? Like, you fucking useless fuck knuckles.
I remember we did a Hobby Nightmare yesterday, and it was a Battle Report one. Did terribly in the algorithm, but it is what it is. And this rule came up with Baylor Core called the Dark Master rule. Do you know what this is? In Age of Sigmar? He literally says... No. Okay, you say, right, I'm casting Dark Master on one of your units. Doesn't matter what unit it is, could be anything, right? And you say, okay, I'm going to roll... Every time you want to do something with that unit there, I roll a d6. On a 3+, you don't get to do it. It's like, great, I don't get to play my model. Awesome. That's an awesome rule. Like, that's literally... That makes me feel so good for playing this game. It's such a ridiculously anti-fun rule. If any play testing, people go, take that out. Take that out. Or nerf the hell out of it. Just take it out. That's awful. Like, all you're saying is that really cool thing you brought, mate, you don't get to do anything with it. On 3+, no, you can't move. All right, cool. It's going to stay there then. Can I fight? In this combat round, can I fight? 3+? No, you can't. It's just asinine.
Is it once per... It's so debilitating. It must be once per battler, right?
You can do it once per game. But it carries on all the way through. So if you get a double round, which you can do in Horus in Age of Sigmar quite easily, then it lasts for 2 turns, like 2 full turns. Yeah. And so basically, your main, the guy who wrote it in, Gargant, had his main Gargant dude just standing there doing nothing for 2 full rounds, just as he's getting pummeled by people around him.
So this will like be. So the game's developer for the game, James, not James Workshop, but a cousin of his probably, He said a 10-man multi-melter squad will probably kill half a dozen Space Marines a turn, which means they're still scoring. It's 8, by the way, not 6. But second, he goes, if you take anti-infantry weapons which suppress or rout them, they won't score, and that's a far more efficient use of points. Yes, but I don't know if this has come to his mind either. The dead don't score.
So this is true.
Multi-melters are very efficient at making things dead. Like, if you were trying to change your game to be like, oh, we're all about the pinning now, we're all about this meta, it's like, yeah, don't do that shit. You know, like, you need to communicate it another way. It doesn't work.
One thing that you said the other week is that you were afraid of, well, not afraid, it's the toy soldiers, but you know what I'm saying. You were concerned that 3.0 Horus Heresy was going to basically be another reskin of 40k. Do you reckon those, from what you've seen of the leaks, are your opinions holding up? Are you less concerned, or are you more concerned?
I'm more concerned. I'm not investing in it at all.
Okay.
So,
well, like that. Look, this note here that you also posted, Maka, from that same article between Andy and Neil about hobbying, definitely indicates like a harmonization of how 30k's rules are being handled. It feels just like 40k.
Can I show that, Maka, by the way? Is that all right to show?
Yeah. It's from their article.
All right, cool. I'm sure.
Yeah, because this is kind of crazy to me. Like it feels like a top-down initiative. It's from top. Like, you cannot create rules. You're not allowed to create rules anymore that encourage the hobby. Actually, despite what they say, right?
It's very
30k community is the exact opposite community to. So to give people an idea of how bad it has gotten is, basically, if the unit doesn't have that weapon in its specific kit that it comes with, it doesn't get the option. So take units like all the Resin Legion Terminators, that's it. If they're armed with spears out of the box, that's the only weapon they get. If they're armed with Power Fists out of the box, that's the only weapon they get. If you're a Primarch and you used to have a jet bike in your rules, and your name sounds something like Jagged Eye Khan, guess what? No bike. Because he doesn't have a model. It's just, he doesn't get it.
I did say this before we recorded, but Kaifa did call that. I will say it for posterity as we're recording. Kaifa weeks ago.
Said it
it's pretty low-hanging fruit.
Because it would be a dick move.
Like,
yeah, he's like, well, imagine if they did this.
Because that's the pedigree, right? And it's so frustrating because, like, okay, like Maka will often say, like, 30k players, this is not the community to do that to because they're more hobby-centric. And I think that's true, but I'll speak for the 40k homies out there who are still hanging around, right? The true diehards. It's like, put aside the competitive upswell, right? There's still that same core is there, right?
Yeah.
It's a hobby first. Like, people want to create cool shit. They want to be able to take their dudes and put them with whatever gear they want from the armory that would exist in world, like in the battle barge or whatever, the Space Marine, the chapter armory in 40k, right? Rather than what you're limited to based on how products are bought and sold in our world. Like, it's so incongruent narratively. It's like, I figured it would just happen because it was top down in 40k, and now here we are, right?
I still think that rule that got most people into the hobby was create your own chapter master. It was literally all of this war gear, all these options, and you can create it, no problem. And by the way, are the models available for this? Of course they are. They're all on the set. And you can get stuff from other sets and put them on. That's why the Vanguard veterans were so cool.
Well, okay, so a good example of a good example of this shit show is Ravenwing. You say you play Ravenwing. There is no Ravenwing commander. There is no like Ravenwing bikes. You just have the same bikes everyone else does. You can't make command squads with bikes. You can't make characters with bikes. You can't make characters with jet bikes. You can't make command squads with jet bikes. They're all gone because they don't make a kit for it. Sure, you could kit bash it. You could take command squad bits and put them onto your plastic jet bikers. But no, that's not allowed. That would be converting, and that's something outside the box. You're dumb. You're too dumb to convert. If we tell you what a power sword is, and it's not in the box you've got, you wouldn't know what it is. You wouldn't know what to do with it. If we mention the word Thunderhammer and you don't have it in the box, you'll just sit there scratching your head like a monkey. So So we've taken that option away from it. And I just sit there going, okay, well then make them monopose. Just make them one-piece castings.
Have the balls.
In plastic.
Yeah.
Don't even make them multi-part kits now, because I'm just going through all this fuck around, making your shitty fucking kits to end up with these fucking models that all play the same, look the same, act the same on the tabletop. You're encouraging me not to convert and customize
it's
them.
Thing, Maka,
and I'm sorry,
the quotes on the screen.
But the 30k mindset is convert, customize, own it. It's your guy. You've got 100,000 legionaries. You can carve out your niche within that 100,000. That's part of the fucking attraction of the Horus Heresy.
Literally the quote on screen, right? Okay, so Andy and Neil on here, dude. Why are you lying? That's not what your kits are. They're not for conversions. They're not for kit bashing. You don't deserve to use the word kit bash. It's beyond what you do. All of your models are not built this way. We're not stupid. Anybody picks up any one of your kits and tries to convert it. Again, if you really know what you're doing, you could do 1 or 2 conversion bits, but it's going to be expensive. You're going to have to buy several different kits and then meld them together. And even then, you're going to be green stuffing most of the time because it doesn't fit together properly because it's not designed that way. But then you release interviews like this where you're just fucking lying. It's literal lies. Any hobbyist who picks up any Horus Heresy box set, a 40k box set, will tell you what's kit bashing? The least thing. It's like the least important thing in the current meta, in the current what 40k going for. Yeah, if you want a kit bash, don't buy 40k kits, don't buy Horus Heresy kits. Simple, right?
The thing that makes me angry about it is just the gaslighting. No, that's not how you feel.
Yeah.
This is how you feel. And I think that's just so aggravating because it's so disingenuous. It's like, the whole point of like the transaction is meant to be they supply something, we're the customer who's like, we're happy with what you're supplying, now we buy it from you. Not dictating to us, this is what you will like. This is what you enjoy. Don't worry about whether or not you actually want it. You're being told. And that's the bit that really frustrates me. And a lot of people are just gobbling it up.
Of course,
They're turning off capacity of critical thought. And so I've come up with a meme. And so
send it.
Feel free to put this on the screen.
Please.
Maka, those rules you shared with us, those were leaked so that these guys who are writing this interview, they don't know the context or was those rules you shared with us, those wardrobe options, was that public knowledge or was that leaked? It was leaked, right?
Yeah, leaked.
Yeah, so then these guys are just they're basically lying because they're assuming we don't know that information. Right, they're trying to hype us up. Oh, get ready to kit bash, boys! Get ready to buy all these parts and have eat your hobby hearts up. Right? Not quite. Super gross.
I'll give you a great example of the fucking gaslighting. Right? So they've brought back the whole intelligence, willpower, and cool in addition to leadership. Right? And the whole reason they got rid of those in second edition and the fucking people who wrote second edition said why. They're like, oh, if you're a Marine, it's basically just that same flat stat anyway. So if it's your leadership 8, you're probably intelligence 8, you're probably willpower 8, you're probably cool of 8. So it's all the same number. And at most, it's going to differ by like 1 value point. So you may as well just condense all of those things into one stat that encompasses intelligence, willpower, and cool, and leadership. And just call it something like, I don't know, leadership. And just condense it down. And they said that in second edition because they said coming out of Rogue Trader, they found it was a really clunky mechanic for a large-scale war game. And then in the very next fucking paragraph, they turn around and they say, oh, but we found that things such as pinning, blind, and concussive, they're all kind of the same thing, so we condensed it down into the one status. It's like, what?
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
It's just like, my fault.
This as my mate Randy said prior, like when we chatted, he goes, "This game is not Rogue Trader. Don't try and appeal to Rogue Trader mechanics. The game is Horus Heresy. It's Alan Bly's game, Alan Bly's legacy, not Rogue Trader."
It's nostalgia bait, man. That's what GW.
And people with no critical thinking are fucking lapping it up. I'm sorry, but people who really rate this, they have no critical thinking skills. Or just fuck them. Fuck them. I don't need to pussyfoot around it. Fuck them.
See the viewer count drop.
Well,
If they can't take that, like no. Because here's the thing, right? These are the same people, and this is what is. I'm not angry. You know, this is YouTube. Got a bit of a persona here, but these are the people who, when you say, like the developers said, there's no wholesale changes. I mean, fuck, they say it in the very top of this article. Oh, we haven't made any major changes. And it's like you've changed the stat lines. You've added 3 different stat line types to them. You've changed all of the weapon profiles. You've changed the entire force organization chart. You've changed the phases of the game. Like it's like, and then you have these fucking people in the comments of the video go, but there's still a movement phase. There's still a shooting phase, mate. It's basically the same fucking game. I don't know what you're bitching about. It's like, I tell you what, look, how far do they need to actually go before your brain switches on and you start going, nah, actually, this is a different game and they're lying to me. Mm-hmm. Like, do we need to have, this is the flirm phase, okay? The flirm phase comes after shooting. Now you have to sproogle your gong glugak, okay? Now you roll a d7.
Full
and then
first
you move.
edition
I don't even think
AOS.
that would.
Full first edition Age of Sigmar. What? That's what it's going to take. It would be like, stand on one leg and you get a reroll. So, yeah, what?
Dude, I think for those types, the types who desperately, like habitually just want to like what they like, right? Which is, I think, who you're kind of painting, who you're putting in that circle. It would take, because even if they did that, if the people around them, their influencers, were sniffing those farts, they still like it, right? Mm-hmm. It's honestly just like,
that's fine.
It's
no one's saying that's not a good thing. You can like what you like. Do you know what I mean? Like,
of course.
Like,
just know what it's bad.
Like, don't lie.
Yeah.
Don't piss on my face and call it rain.
Yeah.
That's all. Mm-hmm. You know? And so I came up with this meme, the 30 cope is what I'm calling it. And it's for people who just can't acknowledge the objective reality of just the little things, like they are making major changes to the game. Whether you like that or not is irrelevant. But accept the reality that they are. If you can't come as far as meeting me on that halfway point of they are making major core changes, which are going to be divisive. You can't even come there, then we can't even have a discussion in the first place. Because you're clearly too indoctrinated, whether it's by yourself or by external factors, to even have the discussion in the first place.
You know what I think of? I think of Picard in the lights. And then he can acknowledge them. Or he's not willing to acknowledge the lie. It's that situation for Mecca. He's suffering, refusing to eat their lives. Yeah, exactly.
Well, on this, weirdly, we could be saying that with 3rd edition Horus Heresy, they're going more mainstream by pulling it more in line with 40k. But the actual brief of this entire thing was, we could expand it if you want to the whole Warhammer sphere. It's not just 40k. Everything else is there as well. They may not push it, but it's there. Is 40k going mainstream? And if so, what are the main pitfalls, in your opinions, to 40k? Because I've covered this point on my channel before, so everyone knows what I think. I will go into it a bit later on when I get my turn. But what do you guys think of 40k going mainstream? Is it a danger? And I'm getting some like ambivalence from Maka. Like maybe you just don't care about it goes 40k because it's already dead. You know, or what do you reckon?
Well, this is the last system that I really wanted to support with actual dollars was 30k. They've just basically given me the green light to just not support them now. Mm-hmm. So the way I look at the mainstream phenomenon is it's great when your hobby goes mainstream if it's in the hands of people who want to treat it with the gravitas and respect that it's due. And they're willing to embrace newcomers, but not at the expense of the existing audience. The problem with going mainstream, though, is that most companies that do it, they are willing to rob Peter to pay Paul, to trade their soul to the devil for 50 cents more. They will discard everything about their system that made it unique and likable in the first place, just to chase that mythical wider audience, just assuming that somehow they can appeal to everyone, forgetting that like things have an innate trait that made them appealing in the first place. And when you try and make something that everyone likes, typically you make something that no one likes because it has facets to it that people find repulsive to go on with the facets they're really into.
Would you say the Amazon TV show has a chance of stemming that tide with Cavill there? If he's still around, if he's still doing it?
I don't keep tabs on the developments of that. Is he still attached to the project?
Apparently so, yeah. Yeah, the last thing I heard of it was I was speaking to Amber King a while ago, another YouTuber, and he's knows a few people who know a few people, and he was talking about, Cavill's still there, you know. And then the one guy I know who's still who's still in the studio, sorry, that jumped down my throat, that. Too many bugs in this room right now. I was literally like, you know, what was the movie called? You, Me, and Irene, or whatever it was called. You know, the bug goes in his mouth. That was literally just me when he's on the motorbike. Anyway, so he was saying, he's still there. Things are still moving. You know, it's just negotiating with Amazon what the show's going to be like. And I think that's the main zeitgeist of what 40k is going to be. Is going to decide on those negotiations, which is why I think you saw Cavill distancing himself a little bit at the start, because he's been burned by The Witcher. Obviously, he's coming into 40k going, listen, we're doing 40k. It's going to be grimdark. It's going to be really violent. It's going to be, you know, really, you're gonna wince when you watch this thing, right? And we don't want any Space Marines in the first couple of seasons, because, you know, they're there, but they're this other thing that's going to be there. And I think this is just me, from what I've been told, like filling in the blanks. I think Amazon want Ultramarine, Space Marines, you know, Saturday morning cartoon. They want, you know, full on, let's do 40k. It's going to be great. And Cavill's more, no, let's do grounded, let's do grimdark, let's have respect for the source material, that sort of a thing. So where those negotiations go is going to pretty much decide the zeitgeist of what 40k is going to be for the next 10, 15 years. And I'm going to be honest with you, the Games Workshop are in a bit of a bind, because they're in my opinion, it's kind of lose-lose. Because if Amazon get what they want, okay, they'll make the money in the zeitgeist right now from the mainstream, but that money's going to ebb away eventually when people figure out anything. As Mako just said, if you try and please everybody, you please nobody, and eventually those people will leave. They're tourists. They will leave. They're like, okay, well, I'm done with this now. We've seen it with Star Wars. They're here for a bit. The Force is female. Look at my vagina. And then, like, things I thought I'd never say. And then they're gone, right? Years down the line, they go and find something else to fad over, you know, and they do that. So if it goes Cavill's way, then it becomes really grimdark. It goes down that line. They keep their core audience, but at the same time, they miss out on that Amazon money. They'll probably do one season, then cancel it. You know what I mean? So they've gotten to bed with the devil, and this is what you get. Quite simple. If you want to go mainstream with 40k, if there's one property out there that might suffer from going mainstream, and people can shoot me down for this, it's 40k, right? It's you either commit to what it is, and you welcome everybody who's interested in committing to what it is, or you don't do it, in my opinion. And we'll see where Amazon goes. But you know, what do you guys think on that? What do you guys think on the zeitgeist of the TV show, and will you watch it when it comes out?
That was like the way you laid it out was sort of my intuition as well, right? Because I don't know if it's fair to call it failure to launch, but it's definitely taking longer than everyone I think is expected at the time, right? How it's just like, where's the updates? What's going on? It's been a slow trail of information or updates with regards to production. So like, I can't help but intuit the same sort of takeaway. It's like, is there a conflict of interest in terms of what the ultimate product will be? And then with Cavill's pedigree, like I can't. Everyone knows those stories about how he was.
There has to be conflict.
Trying to keep integrity.
There has to be conflict. Because so you know Cavill's track record of saying respect the source material. So if he's saying that about, let's say they're doing Eisenhorn for the that's the rumor, right? They're doing Eisenhorn.
That would be what I would opt for. I think that's the right path.
I do Gaunt's Ghost myself, but like, you know, Eisenhorn, decent choice. You know, there are some pretty grim stuff in there. There's torture. There's know, dismemberment. There's SA. There's all sorts going on in Eisenhorn. That, you know, and that's why it was so beloved. It's number one. It's one of only 3 or 4 decent books Dan Abnett has ever written, but that's beyond the pale. You know, like, by the way, William King is just better than Dan Abnett. Suck my balls, anybody who thinks differently. But when it comes to Eisenhorn, it's going to be a grim show. And if it's not...
Then it's not Eisenhorn.
It's not Eisenhorn, and it's going to fail. And because your core audience, whenever you do a series like this, you're not relying on Joe Schmo flicking through Amazon Prime going, oh, this is cool, I'll watch this, right? You're relying on the 40k dudes going, oh, yeah, it's 40k, come on. And they watch it, like Secret Level. The reason why the Space Marine 1 had the best ratings, because all the 40k dudes loved it. It was Grimdark, it was exactly what it's supposed to be. And people have said to me, well, that Secret Level shows you that Amazon's heart is in the right place. No, it shows you those animators and that director had their heart in the right place, and it's Secret Level that nobody gives a shit about. This is a flagship TV show. It's different. And these are the people who made the Rings of fucking Power. Don't you tell me they don't have it in them to take a big old woke dump all over 40k. They will, and they can.
They certainly can, right?
Yes.
Well, Secret Level and these Astartes animations, not throwing shade at all, but everyone knows they're cool, they're badass to watch.
Yeah.
But those shorts, right? Those short films.
Yeah.
They have the luxury to. There's no real narrative to kind of sink your teeth into, so things won't get as skewy. It can just be all about the kick-ass vertical slice of this action, right?
Yeah.
But when you have a show like Eisenhorn, where there's a narrative, you're going to have those influences. There's more room for them to seep in, let's say. I think that's the fairest way to put it.
It's one thing that people have been craving, isn't it? Like that how does it work? How does it look when actual people are acting in this universe? You know what I mean? Everyone's been craving for that Inquisitor just sitting there having a caffeine drink and playing, Regicide with one of his henchmen and discussing the Emperor and discussing, what things are going on in the sector. That's cool. You could literally, this could be huge if they do what they could do. This could be huge. Mackie, you've been quiet for a bit. What do you reckon on the TV show? You're not bothered about it at all. Will you watch it? Because you're like one of the only people I know who could feasibly go.
We have to watch it. If it comes out, I think I would push for us. I would push for us to watch it.
Absolutely don't give a shit.
Oh, okay.
I'd watch it if we wanted to on the channel. Don't get me wrong, but it just doesn't appeal to me in the least. Because as far as I'm concerned, you had to strike while the iron was hot. It was hot a year ago, 2 years ago. It's not hot anymore. Like, perhaps a shit-stained shadow of its former self to me. Like, it's done its dash with me. So I'm not a fair arbitrator of who it might appeal to. But it's going to be very, very hard to appeal to the normies, to drag them in, because, like, it's very easy to get an audience to understand your Game of type show, right? It's really just medieval Europe. Let's add a little bit of like pseudo witchcraft and some dragons. It's not really that divergent from real. Whereas the way 40k works, just explaining how spaceflight works alone, took the entire movie Event Horizon. You know, like 40k is just so niche in that regard. Like trying to explain to people that there's a fucking superhuman corpse sitting on a throne that's projecting a psychic might out into the galaxy to act as a way beacon for travelers. It's all this. It's so rich and dense in lore. It's very hard to make a TV show to appeal to all of that.
One counterpoint is Dune, though, isn't it? If you look at Dune, Dune's just as in depth, and that those movies did very well. And those are movies, not TV show. They didn't have time.
I don't think it is. I don't think it's anywhere near as. And that's not to say that Dune itself as a novel series, it is very in-depth, but it introduces it to you very slowly.
Yeah.
And it's very character focused on just a couple of characters. All you need to know about, spaceflight in that is that, yep, it's hard to do. We have navigators, they take spice. That allows them to do space travel because they can kind of see where they're going to end up when they fall more. Whereas like 40k, you're like, okay, so psychers are a thing. Now, the psychers come in all shapes and sizes. This particular psyker was blinded because he's an astropath. Now, and this one here, he's a da-da-da-da-da. And, well, he can't just navigate to where he needs to go. But this is the thing, right? It's very... You're either going to end up with a big exposition dump to explain all this. It's going to end up like the original Dune movie, where, the Princess Irulan's there at the start, and then she fades out and then fades back in and gives you more exposition.
Right. Like the right way to handle it would be to keep it character focused, like you said, right? And just you don't have to go through how complex it is, right? The nitty gritty. The deep fans of 40K will know what they're suggesting to, and they'll gleefully break it down to the people who are just watching the show, right? Who just have that surface level of spaceflight is hard and done.
Yeah.
Question is, do we trust the people doing it though?
That's the
because
point.
Amazon
No,
has a pretty bad track record.
Yeah,
you know?
That's the point. A really good writer could write a Warhammer 40,000 Eisenhorn TV show that absolutely just shows you enough of 40K so you're intrigued to know more. How does space travel work? You know, that they make references to different things that make you want to go on the wiki, right? They entice you, they excite you. But the story itself is very human-driven. The characters are well-written. The reason why Game of Thrones took off is not because of dragon tits, right? It's literally because the first series had no magic in it and no dragons in it right up until the end. It was literally, as Maka just said, understandable. It was speaking a language you could get. It was political intrigue that had 21st century sex and violence over the top of it. People got addicted to it, and then the magical stuff started coming in right towards the end. 40K should do something similar with Eisenhorn, because you could have your normal sci-fi tropes, your speeder bikes, your this and that, your spaceships, right? But you give it a 40K skin, and you write it properly, and you expand on the characters like Beckwin. If you're gonna go all the way, you've got to expand on Beckwin, give him more to do, right? You've got to expand on characters like that, and really give it a not a Firefly feel. Because if I hear one more Joss Whedon sentence, I'm gonna jump out the fucking window. I mean, like, you get a good writer in there who understands 40K. Cavill approved, basically, and you go down that route. They're not going to do that, you know, but, you know, I'm so intrigued by the way it's going to go. That's why
that's why I wonder if the failure to launch or how slow the progression has been, the production. Maybe that's why, right? That's where the butting of heads is. I can only intuit that's what's taking things so long.
But in terms
like
of...
Why would Games Workshop not want to get things going, right?
Well, in terms of general zeitgeist, general mainstream, what are the strengths and weaknesses of that? I'm going to put another picture in chat so you got a reference to what I'm talking about.
God.
So in general...
Was that even successful?
I don't think it was, because that's why I stopped.
There's your answer.
Stopped, exactly, yeah.
There's your answer.
The Warhammer Adventures. Oh boy, is that a child space marine?
No. The space marine is an actual space
just...
marine. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. That's an actual Necron, an actual space marine. In the cover behind them, they're actually shooting at each other as well. So those are actual dudes, but there are kids in front. But when I first saw this, I thought, okay, here we go. Right, yeah, this is where we're going now. This is the mainstream kicking in. People know how I feel about this, right? Like 40K going mainstream, you start to strip away at its soul. You start to strip away from what it is. It's why I loved Rogue Trader so much as a video game. It pulled no punches. It showed you exactly how fucked up 40K could be, and exactly the kind of people who can be walking around this. Those dudes love 40K, and you can tell, right? Those dudes, Owlcat, amazing. They and not just because they sent me a key for the new DLC. Thank you. I've not done a video on it yet. I feel really bad, but like, it's an amazing game. Go play it. On the flip side of that, when Games Workshop do things like this, you do start to see, okay, let's take all of the things that make 40K interesting and unique, rip them away. Why? Because those are the hard edges. The hard edges that people might bounce off of, we need to get rid of those. You know, we need to get rid of all that. And what you're doing is you're left with Saturday morning cartoon. Even the Dawn of Fire series, look at the front cover of that thing. Is that a 40K book to you? Like,
no, it's more. It's a new 40K. That's what it is. Right? I didn't read the last two books, but I've read most of the series purely just to keep tabs and just, you know, sometimes you need to read something to help you fall asleep. And I'm not saying all the books are terrible, but they do that. There's one gem in that, but that's a tangent. It does speak to the overall quality, in my estimation, anyways. Yeah, the Dawn of Fire series does feel more like trying to go mainstream. But I think and it's not a super sexy answer to your inquiry, right? But I think it kind of keys off of what Maka's position. Yeah, I think it comes down to execution, right? Because look, I would consider the Marvel Cinematic Universe taking those something nerdy and fairly niche like comic books, right? Those stories, and turning them mainstream, right? So they're big blockbusters that appeal to everybody. And the early, I guess the first half of the MCU, let's say, I think did a good job kind of riding that line of execution, satisfying the old fans. And then the second half, phase 3, Thanos snap onwards, basically. You can see it's been a total shit show because they are trying to make that appeal to everybody, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's just all going to come down to execution. It's not an appealing answer because you can thread that needle. I think it's possible. I don't know how you guys feel about early MCU.
I honestly think...
But I liked it a lot.
I think Games Workshop's own tardiness and their own slowness has worked in our favour. I think they've missed the boat. I think the modern audience zeitgeist is already dead. You can see what's going on with Marvel. You can see what's going on with corporations. In the early 2010s, when they were all going woke, quote-unquote, and they were all doing the MCU and all that sort of stuff, those movies are bombing now. Nobody's watching them, right? And
well, they bombed even when they came out.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah. I mean, look at the all-female Ghostbusters, right? It makes people vomit. So, like, all of those movies were bombing even when they were successful, quote-unquote. Nowadays, they're not even bombing. People just aren't turning up. They're literally losing their ass on these movies. Same thing goes for, TV shows, things like that. The Rings of Power will be cancelled pretty soon. It's going to be cancelled. We all know that, right? It's lost most of its people. What was it? Wheel of Time, again. They took all the wrong lessons from Wheel of Time. Oh, it's got female empowerment, so it must be woke. No, shut up. Right? So all of those things are going away. And even major corporations are starting to, gut their own diversity divisions. All of the DEI stuff, they've gutted all that. Microsoft have led the way with that, getting rid of entire divisions of people. Even people who Musk hasn't taken over, like X and stuff. All of these corporations are nuking those departments because it doesn't sell and they're losing their ass. Games Workshop moves so slowly. This entire movement has been born, has been really popular, and died. And Games Workshop are only now starting to get on the bandwagon of, hey, maybe we should do this. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of like that meme of all of the internet browsers. Like, like, what do we want?
Yeah, they are the Internet Explorer.
Yeah, exactly. They're so behind. And
if they are trying to make it appeal, all intersectional and all that kind of stuff, sure. But if they've missed all of that toxic influence, let's call it, and then they create the outcome that would be most preferable, then the timing will work in their favor. But I just don't know if that's the route they're going to go.
I don't know if they're smart
enough
to say, hey, we can't do this right now.
That's the question, right? Like I imagine in my headcanon, it's Cavill trying to like pull the ship in a certain direction, in that more wholesome 40K purist direction. But I don't. What's the deal, man? What's taking so long?
What's the deal?
Yeah,
that's the only thing I can say is that they've missed the boat, and maybe that'll work in our favor. Maybe they don't have a choice now to say maybe we need to can this. But also, I don't know if they've got the brains to look at the landscape and go, do you know what? Dude, look at 3rd edition Horus Heresy. Does this look like a company who looks at the landscape, reads the room, and goes, I know what to do? No. They're retards. Let's be honest. Like they're going to come in my opinion, and they're going to go down the woke route. They're going to go down the ultra progressive route, and things are going to bomb, and they're going to blame us. That's what's going to happen.
Can't wait.
They're going to blame us.
Can't wait for that.
They're going to blame us for the mainstream not accepting 40k. It'll be the toxic fans, the toxic, cisgendered white male fans who are the backbone of this hobby and who've built 40k from the ground up over the last 35 years or whatever it is, right? It'll be our fault. It won't be their fault, it'll be our fault. When they were warned. Like hook, line, and sinker.
They
They were
are
warned.
very, very slow. So,
Like,
as an example, right? Think how long it took them to do online website sales.
Yeah.
You know, like to make a functioning website. They were a good decade behind the trend. You know,
And that's
like
been
they just because they're the most complacent business. They succeed in spite of themselves. Like there's an old saying, the British Empire, it came to be in spite of the politicians that ran Britain. You know, and they just lucked into an empire by accident. It's the exact same thing with Games Workshop. Like, their shit is popular, but the thing is, they don't know why it's popular. They literally do not know. But they're so complacent about it, they just assume that, like, well, it will always be popular, and we can just do what we want, and people will just gobble it up. And that strategy is great until the second it's not. And then they're left scrambling, going, fuck, why isn't this selling? You know, and you see that in movies and TV shows, especially like Amazon. Oh no, we could just like put whatever we want in a Lord of the Rings movie. Like, no, people love Lord of the Rings. They'll watch a TV series. No, nobody cares. Like, let's do what we want with Galadriel. She doesn't have any established fucking backstory that people will absolutely love. Like, and then it obviously tanks, and they go, why did it tank? Okay, we're gonna go in a bold new direction for season 2. We have an all-female directing staff. And we're like, I don't think that was the problem. You know, like you're doubling down on the wrong things. And I think Games Workshop's the exact same thing. They don't understand what appeals about the IP, and so they take it in all these weird directions. Like you look at that kitty-fied picture, right? That piece of shit comic art, and you think about all those silly goofy, cutesy art pieces they put on their Warhammer community articles, and it's like you're selling a game where the tagline is, in the grim darkness of the far future there is only war, and then you put that shit on the it's you know what I mean, it's an oxymoron. Like, you don't understand. Who are you trying to appeal to? And then people go, oh, well, they're trying to appeal to my 8-year-old kid, and I think it's very successful. Blow it out your ass.
No,
I don't give a shit.
That's not true. What age were you when you got into 40k? You were about 8 years old. Go fuck yourself, right? It's 40k.
You're 100% right.
40k appeals to kids
because
it's
fucking
40k.
Writers.
Yeah, 40k appeals to kids because it's 40k. Go fuck yourself. It was always capable of drawing in people. People who say shit like that, it boils my piss. Because you're literally just shitting on the entire legacy of the hobby. Like, literally, you're saying it was never good in the first place. It was always good. It was always great. It was always inclusive. You know, I have never seen anybody being excluded from 40k who didn't deserve to be excluded in person, ever. Right? It's always been, dude, you're welcome, man. Absolutely, in you come. Right? It's only when all of this forced shit started, when people started getting their backs up and saying, hang on a minute, whoa. Why are you here? Right? And do you know what? If you've put 30 odd years into this hobby, you have a right to gatekeep because you're here for the right reasons, most of you, right? You have a right to say, hang on, why are you here? If you don't like Grim Darkness in the far future, why? Why don't you go and watch My Little Pony or something? Why don't you go and do something else? Like, there are tons of other things for you to shit on and ruin. Why do you need to be here? People who say shit like that, man, who say, oh, it's for my 8-year-old daughter. Go fuck yourself, right? I was sitting downstairs the other day, right, and I'm painting my Space Marines, and I'm painting them like these are my own Space Marines, the corn dudes, but they're loyalists. They've got blood everywhere, they're running into battle, things like that. My kid, who's 10, she's sitting there next to me, reading whatever she is. I think she's reading, like, bloody Sailor Moon or something, whatever. She goes, what's that? I'm like, yeah, it's Space Marines. Oh, wow, cool. And so I show her it, and she's looking at it, and I'm telling her about Space Marines and, you know, where they come from, what they do. And she's, like, nodding along. And I can tell when she's enthused and when she's engaged. And by God, was she engaged. I've just bought her a book just to go over, you know, well, it's not really a book, it's a White Dwarf. But for her to read through it and see if she likes it or not and things like that. And, dude, it's good enough now. It doesn't need pandering. It never needed it. 40k's never needed it. If 40k can stand on its own, thank you very much. It's fine. You know. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, the fact that those the fact that they interesting, it speaks right. As you said, that's not what excites kids anyways. Like I think that choice actually fundamentally demonstrates like you don't understand what appeals to young boys. They want to see cool dark shit, right? Especially
that's
like
exactly
in that
why,
preteen age,
exactly
right?
why Kaifa, exactly why I picked it out as the point to pick on, right? Because when I was that age, that shit was repulsive to me. Because
lame.
Because the one thing kids want to be treated as is fucking adults. They don't want to be treated like kids. They hate it, right?
100%.
Go enjoy your kiddie version of Warhammer. They go, no, I think that, the hair metal fucking grimdark bolter porn is where it's at. And that's the thing that kids get into, right? That's the thing that attracted us as kids to it. It was hey, this is what the teenagers are into. I want to be like a teenager.
Yeah, that's what it is, right? Like you'll have
and it's that feeling of belonging to a different group.
Well, I think you can just look at what kind of role models or characters kids aspire towards, right? They're always older. They're always older than them, right? No kid aspires to be their classmate, okay? It's just kind of how it works. I don't know if you guys feel otherwise. That's like my general experiences have kind of colored that for me. It's like my own experiences growing up, even kids I know growing up. It's like, you always get attached to what's older, what's cooler, whatever you perceive to be admirable, right? Is kind of how it would work. And if you're going to take Warhammer Adventures, that means you're trying to appeal to basically babies, right? And it's just such a stupid idea because kids of the age of terrible artwork are not going to get excited by that at all.
No, I can afford it either. Dude. So the person who's paying for it is not that doesn't appeal to them either. So unless you're trying to honey dip their mum into buying into the universe, So it proves the point of they don't understand the audience. And it's only going to be the fucking parents out there who... No, I've got nothing nice to say about those parents, so I'm not going to say it at all.
No, I will say this, though. I will say this. Do you know what really drives me mad about my generation? They can't let kids enjoy stuff. Okay? It's not about you anymore. You know, I know mates of mine who really like professional wrestling, and the kids are getting into it, and they're in front of the kids going, "Oh, sign this, guy, sign this, please." Oh yeah, and they're so into it. It's like, dude, it's not about you. You've had your time. Stand back, let the kids have fun. You enjoy it, do your thing, right? Inside. You know, make sure they're having a good time. Don't stand in front of them and butt them out the way so you can get your shit signed. Go fuck yourself. You're a man-child, and you probably shouldn't have kids, right? Same thing goes for 40k as well. You know what I mean?
So this is where I was getting at, North. It's these weak cunt parents who think they have to shield their kids from everything. Yeah. It's like, if your kid is mature enough for Warhammer, show them Warhammer.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, you're not doing them any favors by showing them this kidified stuff and being like, my fucking 8-year-old thinks it's great. No. Like, you either think your 8-year-old is mature enough, or are you saying that you're trying to trick and deceive your child into 40k by presenting it as something it's not? Either way, it's a shitty move as a parent, in my books. Yeah, it is exactly that. It's just weak fucking parents. Like, my parents used to let me watch like fucking RoboCop, Predator, and Alien. Like, I watched Alien when I was 7. And apart from the night sweats and the pissing myself in bed into my 30s, it hasn't affected me in the least. And you know, like, either they're mature enough and old enough that you're going to show them this stuff and you can just let them have at it, or they're not. That's it. If they need to get into it by being shown a kidified version, it's like, well, what happens after the kidified version? Where do you go from there? Because there is nothing. So it's a dead end. If that's the route you're attracting them with, it's gonna fucking end straight away. Because they're gonna, oh, is there any more of these Warhammer Adventures, Dad?
Have you heard of
They were
the
hoping.
Democulabra son?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Want to see Marathi's tits?
Those parents haven't thought about it as much as you just kind of illustrated with this anecdote, right? They just want to like it. This is a way for them to buy something, support company, and allow them to share that how much they like it with their kid. Yeah.
I've got no respect. It's a total Rick moment. Like, I have no respect for them. So I would just be an asshole. Like,
do you know how to guarantee kids won't be into something, especially male kids? Make it for kids.
Mm-hmm.
Like literally,
and tell them that it's cool.
Yeah. Tell them, oh, you're gonna love this, and then you show them picture like the one with the kids on it, the one that's on screen right now. You show them that, right? And no kid in high school. In high school, I would walk in with the word bearers on the bus. And people go, ooh, what's that? Because you know at the front cover that it's metal as fuck, right? It looks like, yeah. So people are like, ooh, what's that? I'm like, oh, these dudes in space who just like murder people. And obviously you play it up, you know what I mean? It's not really like that, but you're like, oh yeah, they kind of do murder people. But, you explain what the word bearers are. And people go, ooh, that's cool. Let me read about that, right? What you don't do is walk in with one of these books that you have, your racially diverse, autistically, representative little kiddies on front of it. You're going to get bullied. They're going to beat the shit out of you. They're going to, what the hell is wrong with you?
Yeah, this is for babies. It's like Maka said. This series, Adventures, are dead end. It can't lead anywhere.
My wife teaches in primary school, and I obviously am in the TAFE and university sector, so college and university, call that nowadays. And man, kids, they don't give two fucks about identity politics. I'll tell you that right off the bat. It's the adults around them going, you think this is a really good cause, and most kids are the quickest things in the world to bully because they got no filter.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like you have to force them to be like, oh no, I'm all about like inclusivity. No, unless they're a kid who is in that like bracket of people, they don't give two shits. They're interested in their favorite sports, their favorite bands, their favorite media, and their favorite games that they play with their friends. That's my experience with youth. And I do scouts as well. So I'm around kids in these age brackets, right? From 8 through to people in their 20s. I see it every fucking day. And like those kids, man, the minute they think there's no adult around, they swear more than I do. Mm-hmm. Like, like they're not these little like woke creatures sitting there going like, oh wow, LGBT rights, look, this one has a black kid, I feel included. No, they don't give a shit. Like it's all about perceptions. Like you talk about like race is a funny one to me, because you have kids, like if your kid is playing on the playground and they make a new friend and you say, oh, who'd you make friends with? And they'll just point a kid and they'll be the black kid. It's not racist. They're just literally like describing them, picking the most definable attribute. No ill intent behind it, and then some adult will come along about, that's incorrect language, actually. You can't and that comic is just that in a nutshell. It's like, no, you like this because everyone's represented. Look, there's a non-binary and there's a girl. And look, she's in boys' clothes. It's like, yes, we had those growing up. We called them tomboys. Like, it's not a new thing.
Or just people.
And some people. Some are transgender. Some are not. Doesn't affect me, so I don't give a shit, like.
Dude, you're being charged by Necrons. Like, what the difference does it make if what you identify as? You're all the same sludge on the floor when they're finished with you. But it's the same thing with. I said the same argument about I said it in a video about Cyberpunk recently. I've got a mate of mine who's transgender, and she was saying at the time there was a big controversy about this. Advertisement in the game in Cyberpunk 2077, because it had a trans person on it who was very obviously a trans person because they had a massive fucking dick, and it was obviously a woman, quote unquote, right? And
we've all been there.
Yeah, we've all been there. We've all been to Thailand. So like that was on, and people were saying, "Oh, it's transphobic. How dare you have this in the game?" And she was like, "God, are you retarded? They're including us. We're normal, right? You have all of these advertisements in the game that are aimed at straight people and everybody else, and us. We're in Cyberpunk. We're just like everybody else. We don't stand out anymore. That's cool. Why? What are you talking about? They've managed a way to do it in setting that makes sense, that nobody bats an eye. No one said it was woke. No one said it was inclusive. No. It's just what it is, right? You can have your transgender people in 40k, no problem. Just don't say what they are, because people don't talk like that. You don't shake someone's hand and they go, I'm non-binary. And if they do, you wipe your hand and you walk away. That guy's a fucking weirdo, right?
I've known so many...
Your hand. No problem, mate. How are you? No problem. Yeah, no problem. And you get on with your day.
I've known so many gay men in my life. You know, I was in the military, so I've known the Navy people. Wink, wink. No, I'm joking. But every gay bloke I've ever met, none of them have come up to me and just gone, hey, I suck dicks. Don't worry, though. Not going to suck yours. Like, it's not a conversation topic that comes up. No. So I don't know why it happens in media that way. You know, it's just one of those funny things. Like, funny enough,
it's
most people act with decorum no matter what their proclivities are. It's only the odd ones out who would be odd, whether they were straight, whether they were, you know, whatever.
Precisely.
Odd people are always odd. You know?
It's just writers.
Most people are pretty fucking normal.
It is.
Right.
Yeah, and kids don't give two shits about virtue signaling. You know, most like when I was a little kid, you know, I would watch films like Alien, and I'm rooting for Sigourney Weaver. I never felt like, oh, if only Sigourney was an 8-year-old boy, then I could finally feel like I was in this movie and represented.
Dude, if it was a movie about an 8-year-old boy, it would appeal to 8-year-old boys. That's just how it works.
Yeah, that's exactly how it is. You know, there's a very good reason why teenagers don't watch Homeward Bound. Do you know what I mean? They just think it's fucking lame, and they're right. If you're a teenager, great movie when you're a kid, but like, you know, you're right. I mean, I think in terms of that, we can probably leave that part of the video to rest, because we don't want to go over all ground. But in general, all right, let's close it up this way. Over the next 10 years, what do you guys think of Games Workshop going more mainstream? Do you think they're going to double down on this, or do you think they're going to put on the brakes and say, you know what, 40k is 40k, like, or don't? What do you reckon we're going to go down?
If they're as stupid as I think they are, they'll drive the ship over the edge of a waterfall before they realise that they've screwed up.
Yeah, if they're handling...
all of the rats in the executive management will flee the ship and take all the fucking cash with them when they do. When the investors realize that, like, oh, you can't just have fucking perpetual growth. That's not actually a thing. Huh. Who'd have thought? That's my ultimate prediction.
Do you think
for the company as a whole, but also for...
Like, do you think the hands are tied like BlackRock and things? So they do have investors who are fully committed to these ideologies, right? So do you not think that maybe management are like, well, we don't want to go all the way down this rabbit hole, but we kind of don't have a choice? Or do you not think it really makes a difference and it's going to be the same outcome either way?
Well, I'll give you an example, right? So you can release a new edition of 40k. So let's say you're in 10th edition now. They release a Space Marine Codex 2 months before the end of the edition. They release 10th edition, it goes to 11th, and they release another Space Marine Codex straight away. They could have just not gone to 11th, and they could have just released another Codex 6 months after the last with a few new units, and the community probably would have sucked it up just as well. So, you know, it's like Horus Heresy right now. Like, they've completely upended the entire game system. To me, that doesn't seem like it's going to entice more people in over what the kits themselves would have. They could have just released the existing miniatures that they already had with new rules, or they could have released all this Sat9 stuff with the old rules, but improved, and they would have done just as well. My point being is you don't need to be scummy in your practices to get money coming in the door, right? You can have your BlackRocks and your Vanguard and that kind of thing, right? Yes, they want you to make ridiculous amounts of money, but it's also got to have some level of sustainability. And there is no law written down that I've ever fucking seen which says you must be scummy to make profits. You might find that that's the easiest way to make profits with the least amount of effort, but it doesn't mean that it's the only way. You know, if you do a few good things for your community to get them on side, they'll put up with a lot of shit from you if you do so.
Well, dude, hence
You know?
where we are now. That's exactly why. Like, I said it in a previous Grimdark theory. There's like this Stockholm syndrome that's like gripping a large portion. Right? People are just, I don't want to say victims to it. Well, they kind of are, right? They're like a slave to it. They're like, they just want to like 40K so bad, or like the Horus Heresy so badly that they'll put up with it because of of how invested they're in.
Yeah, it's kind of like what Max said before. Going back to CD Projekt Red, actually, you know, they built up a lot of positive credit in the bank, and when Cyberpunk came out, they really tested that patience to the point where they were the laughing stock of the entire industry. Now, they pulled it back with Phantom Liberty and with the 2.0 release and things like that. By the way, amazing game. Go back and play it. It's awesome. But at the same time, you do run out of the social credit. And Games Workshop, I think we're overestimating how much they have. When I was with the company, it was in the age of, Games Workshop are being more open with people. They're actually talking to people online now. They're responding, and people thought this was this groundbreaking thing when other companies have been doing it for fucking decades, but there we are. Now that's dried up again. That's gone away again. And they're starting to plug their ears and go la 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 again, right? When the shitstorm was kicking off about female custodies, they didn't want to know. They didn't want to listen. They didn't want to interact with people. Whenever they go after your favorite content creators by saying, you can't do this about Warhammer, you can't do that about Warhammer, they plug their ears, la 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 la, they don't want to hear about it, right? Games Workshop are reverting to type, and I don't think they have the credit in the bank to go fully mainstream and have people who love 40k stick around. There are alternatives now. You don't need Games Workshop to do 40k. That's the big kicker. And I've said this before and I'll say it again. I said it in a video the other week and people thought I was crazy. I said, look, Games Workshop aren't a model selling company anymore. Right? They're an IP management company. That's where they want to be. That's where they're shooting for. They want to manage their own IPs, they want to sell their own IPs to other people, and they want to make money doing that. They don't want to be in the business of making toy soldiers for nerds. They don't want to do that anymore. That's small fry. Let the 3D printer people do that. The reason why Games Workshop don't really seem to give a shit about 3D printing because they don't want to do it anymore. They don't want to do it. They want to farm out their IPs to Amazon, to Creative Assembly, to other game developers, to tabletop war game developers, and they want to have other people pay them to do their work for them. That's the smart play, and that's what they're doing. They don't give a shit, right? This is where we are. And if they chase the mainstream, a lot of people who like 40k are gonna realize what I realized a few years ago, and I think both of you also realized maybe even before me. You don't need Games Workshop to do 40k. In fact, Games Workshop a lot of the time are a detriment. They're a barrier to you getting into 40k and you enjoying it. They're an actual barrier. They're not recruiting you, right? As Mac has said before, they have an empire despite themselves, not because, right? They are getting. It's like they had this huge compost heap that was made by people like Andy Chambers and Rick Priestley and guys like that back in the day, Alan Blythe, people like that back in the day, who really gave them a really solid compost heap. And over the decade, that soil has been more and more, drained of all of its energy, of all of its nutrients. And eventually, it will die. And Games Workshop are just stuffing their pockets out the door as they go out the door. They're not interested in making new models. They're not. I honestly think they are bitter about the fact that they have to make models. And if you don't believe me, look at the fucking box sets, right? Look at the box sets and look at the shit they shovel to you from right at the start of the episode, what Maka was showing us, right? With their own quote saying, hey, these are all kits that you can absolutely kit bash with. No, you can't, you lying fucks. No, you can't, right? Don't piss on my head and tell me it's raining, as Maka said before. They're not interested in models, dude. And if they're going down this mainstream alleyway, I do fear for them, because at that point, I don't really give a shit, but at that point, a lot of the guys who are holdouts will go, I don't need you to do my hobby. I've got this 3D printing company. I've got Minimaker. I've got whatever. I can give them my money. So why am I doing this? And eventually you will get official tournaments saying, yeah, you don't need Games Workshop models anymore. You can do whatever you want, right? As soon as we get to that point, it's over. It's over. As soon as you get to the point where the competitive scene says, as long as it looks like what you're bringing, right, and your bolter is a bolter, things like that, you can bring what you want, it's over. It's finished. And I think we're about 5 to 10 years away from that. I honestly think Games Workshop are moving away from making models entirely. It's a mental thing to say, I know, but that's just how I feel. The signs are there. What do you guys reckon?
I think what you're describing is certainly a likely outcome. Like, if they go mainstream and it becomes more profitable with less effort to just license things out, have a cinematic universe or a television series, and then have all these games licensed, and hell, if 3D printing becomes so ubiquitous and so cheap that it's no longer easy for them to just sell with this impunity and kind of monopoly they have, right? Then I think for sure that paradigm you're describing will come to pass, where it's like, yeah, you know what, we'll just be IP licensing. That's fine with us, right? Less work.
Smart. It's smart.
Right? For right now, I feel like they certainly are into selling models to the point where they're willing to gaslight, right?
Yes.
Like as we were talking about just today. So yeah, they certainly are very much interested in the presently to sell models with their as out of touch and gaslighty as they are. But if it goes mainstream,
I don't think they're doing it now. I don't think they're doing it now. I don't think right now they're saying we need to get out of models. But I do think that the big plan, 5 to 10 years, is to say, we don't make this shit anymore. It costs us money we don't need to spend. Why are we spending money making these molds? Why are we spending money sending out these products to people? We can just license it and get other people to do it for us. Why are we doing it? And as soon as you get to that stage, you can cut Games Workshop out your hobby completely. That's just where I think it's going, personally.
Yeah. I mean, you already, like you said, you already can have a 3D printed army of transhuman super soldiers, right? And the models out there are very comparable at this point. Like, 3D printing is, I think, at parity to plastics at this point. Some of the newer, a few guys in my local playgroup do the 3D printing thing, and they keep tabs on that. And the newer printers, man, it's like, dude, I can't discern mold lines. No,
that's the thing, man. Stage. That's the big thing. How fucking, I'm going to say this once for all, Games Workshop, how fucking dare you? These mold lines are, they give me fucking, make my teeth itch. Like, how?
Sorry, I meant to say layer line. Yeah. The print, but yeah, I agree with you for the rest.
It's inexcusable. Like, I hate it. Like, I get models from Minimaker, no mold lines. It's one dude in a garage with a decent 3D printer. He's invested, like, some money in it. Not a lot, just some. And I get models that are brilliant. Really detailed, no mold lines, hardly any cleaning needed. Glue it together, paint it, beautiful. From Games Workshop, their standard Space Marine set, the 10-man unit of Space Marines, your tactical squad, your intercessor squad, that's the 40k set, right? That's the front and center. You get that mold lines all over it. All down the back of the leg, all down the arm, dude, go fuck yourself. And they put it right in the place where it's going to be seen. No, you cannot. Nobody can convince me these people either know what they're doing or even want to make models. They're making them under duress. Otherwise, either that or they're one of the worst model making companies in existence. Which I don't believe they are, right? So, it's got to be first. Anyway, and Matt, did you have any closing thoughts?
Oh, I have many, but I did just share. Friend Colin, who does watch all our channel, did send me a message he wanted me to give to you, which I've popped in the chat for you, North. Which is the price of the Saturn box in British pound.
Oh, what? Can I share this?
Yeah, you can share this.
That's interesting. It's I think Speaks volume.
That's a lot of money, man.
It is a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
Jeez.
I had a you know, when you talk about the goodwill garnered by Games Workshop, I think of them like Ubisoft, not like CD Projekt Red, where it's like grudgingly.
It's trending that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, it's
£200.
Look,
What's that in your
the
money?
way I think it's well over by the time you add the Australia.
It's rent.
Not actual tax by our government, by the way.
No. It's rent.
Just,
like a month's rent.
So I thought the people are their own worst enemy, right? And I had a quote I made today, so I'm very proud of it. But it's like, oh, I guess I'll just buy Sat9. Up until this box is revealed, I never asked for it. I never wanted it. I never needed it. Now that it's out, you know, I think I've always wanted, checks notes, a Sat9 Dreadnought.
Yeah, I love that.
That's how I feel.
Well, that feels very, like, accurate, honestly.
And I think that's, you know, you don't get that same appeal in the mainstream. The wider audience is happy to dump it as quickly as they pick it up. You know, they'll be all in if you give them a really good, really approachable Amazon TV show. And they'll be like, oh, I might check out this Warhammer game. And then they'll go into a store and just go, huh, nope. When they see those prices. Or they'll buy 2 or 3 boxes, never get around to doing anything really with it. That's just my prediction.
Joe, that guy in a previous video was trying to convince me that Lego is more expensive than 40k. I request now as a time that you look at the screen and make the argument again. Like, that's just... Yeah. That's a lot of money. That's a, and, yeah, that is essentially what you're paying for half an army. And let's be honest, in Horus Heresy right now. And if you're in Australia...
I don't even know if it's half an army.
No, not really. I mean,
Maka would be able to identify it.
The current box is 500 Australian, over 500 Australian.
Oh my!
For the Age of Darkness box. What's the Age of Darkness box in the UK currently?
130, 120, something like that.
So that gives you an idea of price you could be looking.
Yeah,
depends if they want to be nice to us or nasty to us, right?
I don't think they give a shit. To be honest with you, I think you might be looking at a $650.
Because it's a loss leader.
Yeah. I've said it before and I'll say it again. If you live in New Zealand or Australia, you have about as much right to pirate things as people in Russia do when they're not actually selling any models there, because they're not providing you a service. They're just not. Like, at that price, you're being robbed. That you're not being provided a service. So source it yourself.
The topic came up before, and I know this is derailing ever so slightly. I do apologise, but the topic came up earlier tonight, and people were like, well, how far can you push people? And I said, you know what? Australia now, people openly recast. They don't care. They will tell you they're recasting. They'll tell you now that all their books are PDFs. They don't buy the legit stuff, right? I did. I bought the legit stuff for years and years and years, right? Because I wanted to show that support. And it was just thrown in my face. And if you went back to, say, Book 3 era of the Horus Heresy, back when Alan Bly was still well and truly with us, right? We're talking 2014. You went to like 2014, if you rocked up to an event and you're like, yeah, my whole army is just, I don't know, 3D prints and recast, and I don't buy any of the rules, I don't give a shit, people would be like, oh, okay. And they'd be a bit taken aback by it, you know? Now you rock up and you're like, hey, all my shit's recast and I don't buy shit. And people are like, yeah, me too. You know, like, that's the way it's gone.
There, Maka, because that applies to even my local play space. There's definitely been a change over time. Yeah.
And to really double down on this point, if you go online, look how much stuff is just perpetually sold out. It never came back into stock, so it's not like it came into stock and then everyone wanted it and then it sold out again. No, it's just never available.
I mean, they don't bother. And another point, man, they don't want to sell models. Look at the store.
They don't want to have to be burdened by managing a game system. There's a difference, right? They want to create product and they produce just enough to have it sell out and then have your quarterly goals met. They're very much into selling those models, but they don't want to do the upkeep and inventory for enabling a game system to be playable with the products that players would need, right?
Mm-hmm.
You guys don't even know, like, in Australia, if you want to buy a pair of the new plastic rapiers, right, you only get 2 of the weapon options in there. So you either buy the Laz quad mortar one or you get the Grav heavy bolter one. They're 2 different kits for the rapiers. Because that would mean more than 3 sprues in the box, and you can't do that. This isn't like the old days, you know, where you buy a Black Templars box and it gave you the full tactical squad and then a Black Templars upgrade frame in the same box. No. It doesn't work like that anymore. So you buy the plastic rapiers off Games Workshop, and it's 120 Australian dollars. That's about 60 British pounds for 2 rapiers, right? That's a lots of dosh, right?
Yeah.
But if you were to go over to, say, a certain seller's site, right? If I pull it up into Australian dollars, I can buy a rapier carriage for $20. And that's in resin, where a person has to sit there and pour resin into a mold. Like, you have to pay for the labor of someone doing that, and then you get miscast. That they just lost money because you've used the material. You can't sell it because it's all messed up, so you got to throw it out. It represents a loss of the time, the labor, and wear and tear on the mold. Whereas a machine is automatically spitting out these plastic kits at a rate of several a minute, and they charge 6 times more. It's remarkable, absolutely remarkable to me. That's the business model. They're like, yes, the minute someone has a better option, they will stay with us and not jump ship.
But that's why I came to the conclusion I came to, is because, you know, how can you have a model that's making you, you know, X percentage of markup profit and decide to do it so poorly? The only thing I can think of is that you don't want to do it, that this isn't your end goal. If your end goal is not making models, but it's selling your IP and licensing it out, then I completely understand you half-arsing this thing that's making you money hand over fist. I completely understand you looking at the profits that this is making you and going, we can do better, right, by doing less, right?
Yeah,
otherwise, this is a company run by monkeys. You know, and I don't think it is. I think they're smarter than that. They make too much money to be dumb. This is a calculated decision.
You know, it's forced scarcity, right? It's a top-down decision to only... Like, the production schedule is so far plotted out that... Like, I think, like, the best argument is what I said earlier. Like, they're happy to have products be unavailable because they've sold that stock, right?
Yeah.
And it's out of production, right? Like, there's a point in time where for years you couldn't buy certain Tyranids units, right? Just always perpetually out of stock.
Well, here's the thing. Like, your managers in retail should not be calling around to each other saying, hey, do you have this in stock? Can I borrow it to sell to somebody? Like, that should not be a thing. I got phone calls like that all the time.
It shouldn't be if your interest isn't managing it. But I don't think that's where their interest is. It's just a facade, right? This is why the gaslighting is in the article, to bring it back to that. It's like they want to create the illusion that they're managing a game system, but they're not really interested in doing that. They just want to create specific products in their production schedule and sell out completely. And that kind of also justifies having prices be higher because then you're forcing scarcity. It's like I think it's very calculated.
Well, it goes along with all the rules that are being leaked show that, funny enough, what was meta is not, and what wasn't is this edition.
So
shocked that that's happened again.
Fuck me, man. I hate that shit.
Andy Hoare and that, right? When they talk about in the articles on the Sat9 we were doing our first mock-ups before we even released Heresy 2, and it's like, great, awesome. How about you put those energies into fixing Heresy 2 instead of thinking about what you're going to do in the next edition? Like,
yeah, that's kind of telling
that
yourself.
Uncaring.
Yeah.
That there is, like, to me, like the you fuck knuckles. You're wasting your precious energy on the next thing. And of course, as that person said today in the comments, I think you saw it, Kaifa, they're like, well, what's the incentive to them to do a good job?
Mm-hmm.
You know, they know that this is fucking abandonware, that they've got to come up with a new one in 3 years. It's like, oh, fuck it, I'm not going to spend more effort than I need to. I'll just ship an edition out and then move on. It's like, how often can you play that card? How often can you play that card, though, and have the community come back and go, yeah, more please? I think for Heresy, they've severely overestimated how big the appetite is for that approach. I think they're going to hemorrhage players from this edition. It'll sell well enough because, hype of new models, that basic box set. Yeah, but I think it's going to be a very unhealthy system because all the people I know currently that run events and things like that, a vast majority of them are like, no, look, I'm not interested in this edition. And it's like, so they were the ones running the events. So now it's up to a whole new group of people to come in, find a community, establish that community, and then start running events. Well, okay, it can happen, but, what's there to sustain it? Because people that are easily drawn in by shiny thing are easily drawn back out by next shiny thing. And 40k, guess what? It's a year away from 11th. So, if I were a betting man, that is. And they're already saying this shit, like in the article of, oh, well, we're doing journals. It's like, oh, well, let me do some maths here. Journal releases for Warhammer Fantasy every 2 months. There are 18 legions, 18 journals would be 3 years. That would take you through to the end of the edition if they release one journal a month. And that's not including your Solar Ox, your Militia, your Demons of the Ruined Storm, your Custodes, your Sisters of Silence, your Mechanicum, whether that's your Auto Reductor, whether it's your Tagmata, whether it's your Cybernetica, right? So you can see where I'm getting at here is like, what's the buy-in? What's the value proposition here? Because from everything you've now shown us, because the best predictor of behavior to come is behavior that's already happened. Our best predictor to go off is, hey, you're going to just dump some books on us, put in a lot of effort at the start, make it look like you're really going to support it, people buy in, and then you just go, oh, you know what, I'm sick of this thing. Like a kid going, oh, yeah, I'm sick of this toy, and just like dropping it and just forgetting about it. It's like that. Like they just dumped the edition.
I'm very reticent of keeping you here any longer because it's very late with Macros. So, on that, do we have any closing thought before we go? Like, what's going on people's channels? What's going on with you, Mac? What's going on in right now?
Circle edition. Rather than spitting this salt out that this is the problem, right? I've been bottling it up, so all this salt and vinegar is coming out on this video. I've been really good, and to the people.
I agree. It's just funny.
Yeah, I've been really good lately. I'm putting all my energies into Circle Edition, into writing a better Heresy game for actual Heresy players. If you're a real Heresy player, you'll like what I've done, because I'm a Heresy player, and I wrote it for us, not to please some greedy corporate overlords.
Dude, I respect putting your money where your mouth is and just saying, I'll give up my time to write something better. That is something that not enough people do. People will literally sit and bitch and moan, but do nothing about it. And
oh, dude, it drives me crazy.
Like you're doing something. The only reason I've not done it for 40k is because I've got one-page rules. I just point people to that. Just go do that. I've written rules for one-page rules, but I'm just gonna go do that. But yeah, dude, I write my own tabletop role-playing games because there are none out there that I really like. So I play those with my friends. Dude, you're doing exactly the right thing. Exactly the right thing. Kaifa, what's going on your channel, dude?
Right now it's pretty slow because I'm start of our little conversation here. I'm prepping for a little event, but once that's wrapped, I'll do a debrief on how it went and share custom mission mode that I put together for it, which I think is pretty cool. But content-wise, on the channel, pretty quiet these past few weeks, just because hobby time is only so much, right?
Yes.
But once that wraps this weekend, it'll be back to the usual kind of content, thematic list builds here and there, and then thoughts on videos, the usual.
Sweet. Oh, we both passed 25k subscribers pretty recently, I think.
Yeah, how cool is that, right?
Yeah, congratulations, man.
A little something. Yeah, right back at you.
Yeah, we'll catch him one day. He's sitting there squirming. All right, guys. We'll see you soon on the next. Whose turn is it next for Grimdark Therapy?
It would be mine.
Yours? Do you have a title yet, or?
I have a concept of we could talk about, and it kind of segues into how we this one, which is kind of funny.
Okay. Do you want to reveal it, or do you want to keep it?
Sure. And then if it's bad, you can tell me immediately, and we'll disregard. But
Okay.
the concept I had in mind was: is there a sea change coming with how Games Workshop is managing their rule systems? Because I look at Maca, right, and how the addition cycle is so apparent and blatant in how poorly we're being treated, that I wonder, is there a sea change coming? Right, Maca's doing Circle Edition. North, you've kind of already committed to one-page rules, as far as I can tell, as your top system, right? You have guys like Mini War Gaming who are just saying, "Fuck it, we're playing older editions. That's what we like."
I
right?
would do that too, but it's finding players. But I would do that too.
Yeah. Fair enough, right? But my point is, like, I'm wondering if in 8th edition, when all this started, like the more 3-year edition cycles, I think that's kind of where it started. It wasn't as apparent, the hamster wheel that everyone has been subjected to. But now, a few years on, it's pretty obvious, right? How cyclical and kind of gross, and basically all the problems we've laid out in this episode speak to that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder, is a sea change coming in the culture of the hobby space?
Leave that with me. I think you've already heard that I think there is, for obvious reasons. But yeah, leave that. Yeah, that's going to be cool. It's going to be a good episode. All right. Well, cheers, dudes. Thank you for turning up, and thank you guys for watching. Go and check out Outer Circle's channel, and go and check out Kaifa's channel and What the 40K if you're interested in what they were speaking about before. All of us do pretty similar content with different slants. You know, I think Outer Circle is very much on the crunchier. Here's what's going on with the modelling and 30k side. Almost entirely Horus Heresy. What the 40k Kaifa's basically the same, but for 40k, and you got me, the shameless grifter in the middle, who just talks about drama and hobby nightmares and shit in the middle. So, if you like all that stuff, then stay tuned and go check out those channels. See you later, guys.
See ya.